Okay, here's video 3. Let me go ahead and finish that one page. I found the page I was on. So we're at 125. CIP projects are in addition to milling, repaving, and other street maintenance. See, Sabas Avila, I have a memorandum from him admitting that those are petro products and those go right into the storm drains, which go into the river and the aquifer. Not only that, but they're highly toxic fumes and the fine particulates that are kicked up when they do this. And this should not be occurring on these historic streets. These historic streets do not need blacktop overlay. And in fact, the curbs that they created on my block are cracking. The curbs on my street were at least 100 years old, right? And they were beautiful. As soon as they came in with that sidewalk program and they made those curbs, they're all cracked. In fact, the ones on Hopkins were cracked like the week after they installed them. So there's no quality control, and city inspectors and city staff certainly aren't inspecting the work after they sign the check to these contractors. And I take issue with them using these petro products and then the finely packed particulates that kick up into these little neighborhoods, especially with some of these elderly African American residents that live who will be subjected to that. And the smell, the stank of those petrol products, it takes weeks. Not to mention the hazards to pets. There's ample research how that stuff gets in their paws and it's carcinogenic. Federal and state funded resources already awarded. Yeah, let's go ahead and spend some more taxpayer money through better stormwater management. See, and this is a joke too, because they constantly pass development projects for dense housing that create the very flooding problems, and they throw off the drainage, and then that creates the need for more CIP programs. So it's a wonderful way for city staff to have an unending amount of projects to keep themselves busy until they decide to leave City Hall and go work for a developer. The street strips above discuss mitigating potential hazards associated with the railroad. Thank you for listening to my speeches. It only took me how many years? 10 years? Actually, one of the most recent elections that I had when I was running for office, one of the residents at Victory Gardens told me about how they gave her very little time to evacuate her house after a toxic waste spill. And that was right over there in Victory Gardens. So I appreciate this. But see, here's the thing. This is all lip service because you guys are talking about access still, right? So it's really nice on paper, but it's unfortunate you guys are rubber stamping it. And the only reason why you've put it in here is to say it's in here when access comes up. Continue to implement Purgatory Creek improvement, but see, there's no discussion there as a cultural trail system. What does that mean? How about we avoid disturbing those Native American artifacts? In fact, I'm going to do a keyword search at the end of this for artifacts. We looked up Native American. We only found one situation. In fact, I'm going to probably do a count on how many times sustainable comes up and different words for transportation and how many times we see the word historic come up. Conduct an emergency management exercise includes a tabletop view of a train derailment scenario. Well, this is great. Is that because you've got access coming down the pike? And I appreciate you listening to my speeches. It shouldn't have taken this long, but this is great news. Review should achieve the understanding of 3 items during after railroad crash to inform residents of needed actions. Well, why don't you, okay, and then what's going to happen? Oh, I'm just going to have to masticate on this one. City responders could take versus what, yeah. And you know what? You could have a radio infrastructure set in place right now where residents could be monitoring train traffic. They could be communicating with each other, but that hasn't happened yet. Work on local fire EMS to ensure a plan. This is great. This is all great. Ask app. Okay, I'll have to check that one out. Explore the use of low impact development installations, permeable pavement, natural green tolerant vegetation. Okay, okay. Use of incentives for fee waivers and discount for, so rich people who can afford rainwater collecting get rebates? Is that how that works? How about you don't raise our utility rates every year when the budget cycle comes about? And then that way people can actually afford their utility rates. Housing is an essential part of Dunbar and heritage neighborhoods, you don't say, with over 90% of the planned areas being devoted to residential areas. Exactly. The cost of housing is the largest portion of a household's budget. Yes, and it's getting higher every year with our property taxes doubling because of the dense developments. And a home is an important to residents as a form of shelter and stability. That's an odd statement. That's like, you need air to live. Yeah. The city of San Marcos has a limited ability to control the housing market. No, this is a falsehood because you keep rubber stamping developments that are incompatible with the neighborhood, which creates situation where there's flooding, and then we have to mitigate that. And then you focus all of your money on creating infrastructure as exemplified about the amount of text real estate in this document to creating transportation plans, whether it's bus routes, bus stops, walking, new sidewalks versus keeping the cost down up at City Hall and the money that's flowing out from city staff to these contractors. So yeah, you don't say it's a form of shelter and stability. This section assumes that any new housing in the neighborhoods will be constructed by private property owners. Good. New housing will have the full capacity of zoning regulation. See, but you guys rubber stamp left and right any upzoning. City staff have an impeccable track record of putting recommended for any time a developer wants to go across the rubric up to more dense or even industrial forms of development. Limited amounts of new housing will be proposed over the next 20 years. Okay, this section discusses the current housing stock and the unmet housing needs. See, this is not what this document is about. This document should be focusing on the current people who can barely pay their utility bills and their property taxes, not opening up the Pandora's box for developers or people whose pet projects and passions are affordable housing because they are real estate agents. It also includes recommendations on how new construction can fulfill housing needs with the plan's existing character, ensuring housing is available for people at all life stages. And well, that's the case. That's exactly right. We should be making sure retired residents and local residents in the heritage areas can stay in their homes and not priced out of their homes by property taxes. The state of Texas confers statutory authority by regulate zoning and developments, implements recommendations. Okay, given the city's expectation, it is reasonable to assume that some new housing will be constructed within the area plan. And, well, why don't you identify those areas then in a bulleted area and tell us exactly where you think that would be? Because you very craftily gerrymandered a block between the downtown plan and the heritage plan where they want to put up some high rises with no buffer. So why don't you bullet out where those, identify those? Maybe you do. But remember, this is a reaction video, so we'll find out. Any new housing within the historic districts must be contextually sensitive, approved by the historic preservation. Exactly, but above you say you're going to study the problem of medium priority properties in the historic resource survey, and I begged Allison to come to my defense when they put that sidewalk. So I have no hope that by the time they're homies, because let's face it, the city planners knew about that 7-story high rise, those 3 7-story high rises that they're proposing over there by the Elms, right? They knew about that, but they didn't identify that in this plan. So, which that tells me, just like they know Axis is coming back and they knew about that, that there are probably some other projects that they should be identifying in full transparency for the public. And also that means if they're not if they're identified as medium priority, it's going to take them until I'm 80 years old for them to actually roll it out. And they're taking their sweet patootie time to make it happen. Guiding housing development must fulfill local demand, must focus on promotion of specific units and type lots, collaboration with established anchor institutions. Why don't you give an operational definition of that? Maybe it's at the bottom in the index. Consideration of mixed uses that match existing plan area. Okay, use of neighborhood character study located in appendix E to guide the process. Community feedback show gentrification, bingo, and I've already covered this in the first video. Thank you for acknowledging the million times I put this on the document. It shouldn't have taken this long. The process through which an area changes as new residents move into neighborhoods that are historically underserved. No, this is everybody. The community feedback showed that gentrification, a process through which an area changes as new residents move into an area that are historically underserved, can lead to rising living costs, is a concern in the plan area. This plan, but you guys said above that we have all these people with a median income of like $72,000. This plan acknowledges that the rapid increase in home values over the last 5 years, which impacts both renter, has led to a displacement, a 48% increase in the heritage neighborhood home values. Wow. Displacement is the forced, yes, we do know that, and that's happening to a lot of people. And in fact, there's a scenario where city staff came knocking at a friend of mine's door wanting to buy her house to give it to somebody else for affordable housing. And it wasn't until the real estate people got involved that they were allowed her to save her house. And that casts disparaging light on any affordable housing plan that city staff implement, because they can just use it for their careers and hold it up as, look, we got affordable housing. Yet the backstory is a multi-generational San Marcos resident almost lost her house. To protect Dunbar and heritage residents, to allow them to retain their homes, the city housing action plan. See, all you do is you cut your budget by 30%. Update and review and adopt a housing action plan, which is going to take about 10 years for them to roll out, because the historical resources survey, we're now in what, year 7, 8? How long has it been? I know it's been more than 5 years. This is a joke. This is an absolute joke. It's lip service, because it's not. Why don't you say within? See, when I teach my students strategic thinking, we have a timeline. Evaluate the possibility of creating anti-displacement policy for provide more outreach and education for and displace increase property owners awareness. What does this mean? It means like, why don't you show them how to pull the agenda and show up to a public hearing? Evaluate the possibility of creating an anti-displacement policy for neighborhoods and provide more outreach and education focusing on displacement. This is, I don't know what this means. Does this mean you're going to teach us how to protest our property taxes? Or maybe this is to explain and be more transparent on why your budget is as much as it is, and do a breakdown so that we understand where all of our money's going. Or maybe this should be teach the residents how to come speak out at public hearings against developments that the city staff are putting recommend approval. Focus on existing stock. The existing housing, the plan provides a significant portion of homes that are within residents' budgets. The existing housing plan provides a significant proportion of homes. No, that's not true, because the property taxes are going through the roof. The area's median income home value reached $334,000 in February 2023, but a significant of homes are under the median, particularly in Dunbar. Many of the existing homes contribute to the housing affordability and are older or smaller homes of diverse housing types, such as duplexes. This is ridiculous. Now they're trying to say that we need duplexes, triplexes, and apartments and townhomes for affordability, versus making sure that the small homes that we do have, that maybe people don't lose their homes. And I know exactly where we're going with this on here. Many of the housing types are detached to occupy a small percentage of respective lots. Many are rentals that are some are owner occupied. The city can use regulatory tools and voluntary incentives to help property owners keep such units in a livable condition. Well, that's great. But why don't you keep our property taxes under check? This can be done through code compliance initiatives with an inexpensive investment. So now we're going to beef up code compliance staff. But meanwhile, code compliance is rubber stamping parties where there's 200 to 300 people disturbing the peace and quiet of residents. Also, the neighborhood character study, guidance to property owners, adding diverse housing types. This I take issue with. This means that now we're going to have apartments and townhomes and duplexes pop up. And that's going to lead into high rises of density. That's what that means. There should be a paragraph here that says no high rises. To continue to utilize the code compliance function, city means defining high quality home, retaining high quality homes in the area plan. Promote, okay, voluntary incentives. How about historical preservation? Diverse housing types. Now we're starting to see the tide turn. Diverse housing types of buildings either for rent or sale designed to house at least 2 families. These housing types are usually priced moderately when compared to local housing market. Yes, but yet we have developers buying all the historic houses in this area and they're renting them out and they're getting them rezoned, or we have them buying them and they want to build high rises. The community identified the need for additional townhomes, accessory dwellings, and multi-buildings using the neighborhood plan. See, this is the problem. Now they're opening up the floodgates in the plan, in the DNA. The ink is not even dry, and I could already smell what's going to happen, and I could tell you exactly which properties they're going to do this. All of this should be didacted, extracted out of this document. This is a developer's dream paragraph. Many of these housing types already exist in the planned area. These units may be mixed. Yeah, and you know what the problem is? Is that they disturb the community. We've got a bed and breakfast that is continually in fact, she's filed a lawsuit against the city because, and I'm not going to even go into that, because she wants to expand. And there's so much traffic on that block and there's people parking all over the street and none of this is coming to terms with that. So this is exactly what this is all about. They're setting up the stage for diverse housing types. They've even got the perfect word in there, right? Streamline the development process to reduce the amount of time. Well, this is troubling. This means that neighbors cannot organize to fight a development. See, what should be here is expand the notification boundaries and time, not streamline the process. There should be more time for the neighbors to conduct open records requests, or there should be increased outreach meetings that are required. This is not at all what I want to see in this document, especially for these neighborhoods, especially for Dunbar. So this undercuts your whole first part of your ideology about race and socioeconomics, because you're literally taking people who would struggle with this developer speak language and putting them at a disadvantage by streamlining the process. This is racist right here. Consider if compatible with surrounding use of diverse housing types. Yeah, and this is highly subjective for city staff. Provide more outreach, education, technical assistance to current homeowners for use of vacant land regarding diverse. So this is basically how you can turn your home into some sort of rental unit. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to pick it up later on. This is very disappointing, and I should not be doing this on my Friday evening, but I'm going to keep going through it because I want to document what city staff have done. And there are a lot of people who are very concerned. It's not just me. In fact, when I get upset, it's because I've talked to multiple people in this community